Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the videos. What was a moment in your life that felt like a horror movie scene? My friend and I got lost late on one foggy night in the Italian countryside. There were rats all over, and every once in a while we heard someone scream. I've never been more sure I was about to get murdered than I was that night. I was exploring an abandoned mental asylum and then got the scare of my life when a scary looking person inside one of the rooms was just staring at me without moving. Turns out some joker had left a cardboard cutout there. My mom is quite the sleep talker, but it's usually pretty short and incoherent when it happens. One night as a teenager, I woke up to her scream yelling the Hail Mary prayer. My bedroom was across the house and upstairs. Difficult to get back to sleep after that one. Got T-boned by a fully loaded gravel truck in my Pontiac Grand Prix. Woke up several hours, 2 surgeries later and 200 miles from my hometown. Had been lucid but not conscious for hours, was in the middle of a sentence when I came to. Felt like time traveling and teleporting, and sometimes I get this uneasy feeling that I left behind a different world than I woke up in. Went into a real deep woods hike for only the second time in my life. My GPS broke and had to rely on my compass. Got turned around a few times because I couldn't remember the direction I came from, and it was getting dark. Lost the trailway. But the woods are weirdly silent in the dark and alone. It was around 2 a.m. by the time I found the trailhead. I was driving home on backcountry roads at midnight in heavy fog. Like can't see 10 feet in front of you thick. Suddenly I see an all-white silhouette running in front of the car. Every hair on my body stood up. I immediately think, oh god, oh fuck, it's a fucking woman in white, I'm gonna fucking die. Nope, just a drunken redneck who dove into the ditch. I once was driving in the bad section of town right after it got dark. I turned so that I could start making my way to a better area when I saw a woman in a long white dress standing in the middle of the street, facing away from me, and unfortunately on my side of the street. I cautiously drove around her onto the wrong side of the street to avoid startling her. I was terrified that she would turn around and show me that she had a rotten corpse face as she leapt at me. After I passed her, I sped away and didn't dare to look at her in the rearview mirror. 3 minutes later, I calmed down and realized it was probably a mental health crisis or drugs. Seeing my grandson bolt toward a busy street and knowing I could never reach him in time. Luckily my son-in-law grabbed him about 6 inches away from a big red pickup. So I was about 8 at the time, it was something like 1 or 2 in the morning. I go to the bathroom, it is rather bright outside despite the time. I'm sitting on the toilet, playing with the curtain, it comes up enough and I see a shadow standing outside the window. I scream and my mom comes running. I tell her there is someone standing outside the bathroom window. Now my mom, being the crazy motherfucker she is, throws open the curtain, opens the window, ready to fight a motherfucker. Yeah, outside the window. Nope, fucking bear. Window is promptly shut and I'm quickly ushered out of the bathroom. This event furthers the talk my parents had been having off and on about moving. On a side note, we moved about 2 years later for a number of other reasons. Funny enough, there is now a bear roaming this neighborhood. He's been spotted on my parents' front porch at least twice now. When I was about 12, my parents went out for dinner, leaving me home alone. We lived out in the country, on a private road with only 3 other houses, surrounded by cow fields and wooded areas. I went into the kitchen and glanced out the window towards the trees, and there in the fading light I could see a person walking slowly through the woods. They were wearing all black, moving slowly and appeared to pause behind trees. My heart started pounding so hard in my ears I couldn't hear anything else and I was weak and shaky from fear. I froze and just watched them. Would they come to the house? Where were they going? This was before cell phones, but I suddenly remembered my mom had left the number of the restaurant by the living room phone. Slowly, I made my way towards the living room, trying to watch this stranger in the woods. Just as I entered the living room, all the lights in the entire house went out. By this time it was nearly dark outside. I started openly sobbing, and in the dark I heard a weird boom-like noise. That was it. I ran to my parents' room, hid under their bed and sobbed. That's where my mom found me hours later, it felt like. Well, turns out the stranger in the woods was a stupid cow that had busted through a fence. The lights going out was from an accident a few miles away, hit the power line, and the boom was the pilot light in the gas stove. Man, I have never been that scared in my life though. A naked man who was covered in blood chased me across a park at 2 in the morning. I was totally alone. He just wanted money for a bus, and luckily nothing bad happened, but I thought I was going to die. 2 days after my now boyfriend told me he liked me, he fell from a zip line and broke his back. Almost died. 6 months later he got into a car wreck from a drunk driver, almost died. 6 months after that, he passed out and had to have emergency brain surgery, again, almost died. I now have severe anxiety/separation anxiety/ and PTSD. That whole year was a fucking nightmare. Edit, we're both okay now, the brain injury was almost a year ago, but TBIs take a while to heal, so he still has side effects. Thankfully our relationship is still strong, he's physically getting better and I'm healing emotionally too. Lucky for him, the trauma of the injuries has caused him to forget the majority of the pain and memories of those incidents. I am a baby in a car seat in between cousins in backseat. Dad is driving. This is in the 80s and it is my aunt's insistence that I am in this seat even though I am like 5. A sleeping semi-driver is coming over into our lane and there's a cliff on other side. Basically my dad did some amazing driving but semi blew us up. I am uninjured sitting in the seat swinging my legs while everyone is unconscious. They all wake groaning. Dad doesn't wake up. Long story short, just minor scrapes and Dad has broken leg. But the crunch of metal in those few seconds/minute of being the only alive person was quite fear-inducing. When I was about 13 I had to stay home alone every day after school while my parents worked. One day there was a knock at the door. I didn't answer obviously because I was just a kid and whoever it was started slowly trying to turn the locked doorknob. I called my mom after they left and while I was on the phone with her the back door started getting kicked down. As I was frantically trying to tell her I needed help the phone call dropped and I just had to run. Edit, for those wondering, we had an alarm system so luckily when it started going off it scared them off. I was luckily able to run to my neighbor's house for help but we still to this day have no idea who it was. I was doing a wilderness survival class in Boy Scouts, and when we slept in our shelters overnight, I couldn't really sleep. When I woke up the next morning, everyone and the teacher were nowhere to be found. Better yet, I forgot where the exit to the pathway was, so I was stuck in an empty glade surrounded by trees and no way to get out. How exciting! Driving home from work at 23, listening to my favorite song. I pull up to a red light and see this guy on a motorcycle coming up next to me in the other lane. I rolled down my window to compliment his bike when he stops. He doesn't, and runs the red light. He hits a car going at least 55 miles per hour. His motorcycle shatters apart, he goes flying, hits the hood of another car, and lands on the ground and rolls into the curb, no helmet. The car he hit with his motorcycle was totaled. I had to step over his body to talk to the police. He was still alive when they got there. I regret not holding his hand. It was just a normal day, and all of a sudden it felt like the rug was pulled from out beneath me. He was only 18. The town where I went to college had a scarecrow building contest a few years ago, and had them all lined up along the main road. There were some traditional looking ones, some scary looking ones, and some with themed outfits like football players or rock stars. One day I was walking down the main road to get something from the gas station. There was almost no traffic, and hardly anyone else outside. Suddenly, this really thick fog rolled in, much thicker than what they normally get in this town. So there I was, walking down a street with no one else around, it's quiet, and there are weird looking scarecrows every 10 feet behind and in front of me. It was like something out of a Stephen King movie. Nothing serious like other Redditors, but I want to participate all the same. I have waking nightmares that constantly terrorize me. Whenever I'm walking upstairs, I constantly see flashes of me falling and hitting my open mouth on the stairs edge and all my teeth flying out like dice, or when I see an infant soft spot, I have a flash of plunging my index finger into its soft spot and stirring its brain, or when I'm fishing I imagine getting the hook stuck in my eye, and on, and it's always frightening and causes panic attacks. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real-life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.